Hi people, hope you're doing well. Now in this video we're going to take a look at the orchestral elements that I've put together in the brand new song Memory. So this is a collaboration I've done with the singer Jenny Adesanya. This was originally created about a year and a half ago. Okay, so the project here, I've had to kind of retrieve it and get things up and running, and I should have bounced stems out, and of course I didn't. And so this is basically getting everything as it was as best as I can do, and we're going to take a look at the elements that I used to create this. Now it's got this kind of romantic John Barry, James Bond kind of vibe to it. I'm going to play you the elements now, and I'm going to take you through these, and you're going to see what I used to create them. So it goes into this kind of R&B thing, then it goes into two-step garage, okay, but it retains that orchestral vibe at certain points. So let's take a look at the intro. I will start off with the choir. So let's have a listen to this. Let's bring this forward. I worked these out by basically having a starting point that was a little bit different. So I painted these in, and that's something that I do very often when I'm working with orchestral stuff. I don't tend to sit at the keyboard. I tend to paint notes in. And the starting point with these chords here, have a listen to this. Let me bring the choir up. So once again, in terms of the compositional aspect, I started with these chords. And notice that these are coming from the Ableton chord device. So just parallel chords, nothing clever. And it's quite likely that I played them in using the actual keyboard. Now I'm going to show you the instrument that I used here. This is in the Kontakt factory library. This is a preset called String Ensemble, and this is a preset I've used a lot, and it's in the sustained articulation. Sounds absolutely fantastic, but as you can see, I warmed it up a little bit, so I boosted a few dBs at 100 Hertz. So that's what's going on there. Now complementing that, at the same point is this cello line. It's almost got a bit of a Game of Thrones vibe to it, actually. So let's listen to the cellos and the choir together. So they go on a bit of a journey and they kind of resolve themselves to get to the next point. But also there is another musical element here, which is this harp. And this is very characteristic. Let's take a look at this. Once again, the Kontakt library, factory. This is the orchestral section of the factory library. And this is a patch called harp. Now that sounds beautiful, right? It sounds so, so good. And this was an arpeggiator, and I just basically recorded the MIDI in. So it's got this kind of, almost the feel of somebody playing a harp. When you bed some of these elements together, even though they're programmed, sometimes they can start to feel realistic. And of course, if you're a harp player and you're used to a real harp, you're probably laughing at me saying this. But overall, the effect, I think, is that it sounds great. Okay, so yeah, for sure, if you're a classical expert, possibly it doesn't sound exactly like a real classical orchestra, but it's certainly got the vibe, and it definitely works. Now, the other thing that's happening here at the beginning is the timpani. Timpanis are these kind of big booming drums that you hear in all manner of different orchestral music. So have a listen to these. Now notice there's a pitch there, so that was deliberately played at that pitch. And in terms of the instrument, once again, Kontakt, the orchestral library inside the factory library. This is the timpani hits. So Contact is very much being used quite extensively here. Let's see if there are any other elements to bring in right now. I don't think so. Let's just backtrack, double check on these. So cellos, okay, so there's low cellos. I didn't show you these actually. I thought that was Contact. Okay. These cellos, the ones that I was talking about sounding quite Game of Thrones-ish, are from the Ableton Live String Quartet, which is a sound library put together, or an instrument, should I say, put together by Spitfire Audio. I love Spitfire Audio stuff. Yeah, they're great. They're really, really good. And in fact, the choir, I didn't show you which instrument this was, but it's part of the Free Labs library. So this is Choir Long, and that's a Labs product from Spitfire Audio. And they make some fantastic libraries. Their brand new choir library is incredible, and I've used that on something else. And one day I'll do a video to show you that. So yeah, let's just recap. Let's listen to all of these together. And you see there's a reverse crash coming up. And also a wind chime. But whilst we're here, let's take a look at some of these kind of synthesized elements. So we've got a pad, we've got another arpeggiation, there's a high synth. Let's have a listen to these elements together. So obviously this is kind of like an electronic version of the harp. And let's take a look at this. This is a synth mallet from the Korg Triton. The pad is from the Korg M1, and this is probably the wine pad. There we go. Yeah, I've used that on so many productions, but it's a lovely, lovely preset. And then also this kind of high string is coming from UVI Falcon, and that's a preset called City Pad, and that sounds great as well. Let's have a listen to some of these in isolation. Here's the City Pad. Kind of Blade Runner-ish, and that was deliberate. So what I did was I applied a pitch bend to make that happen. And the chord on its own. And finally the ARP synth on its own. Which kind of reminds me a bit of old video game soundtracks, you know, maybe like a Final Fantasy game or something. There's a lot of influences that come out in my productions, you know, and I'm into my video games, I'm into my musical stuff, you know. I do listen to classical, I listen to movie scores, all manner of things can sometimes manifest in the productions. So I put real time and energy into trying to make this feel really kind of sweeping and romantic and dramatic to really suit the lyrical content. Now, there are some other elements in this that you can see, some new rows coming in here. There are additional cellos here. Let's take a look at some of these other sections. There's not too much diversity, but there is a slight difference. Let's have a look. Something is soloed. Let me take this off and let's try again. Oh, by the way, the two-step section. So it transitions from this kind of half-tempo, almost R&B kind of vibe. Let me show you that point. Here we go. So let's come back. Here's the R&B bit. So it's kind of like three styles in the one song. And this bass line, by the way, is a Slate Digital 808 bass sample. And that's wicked. Sounds great. The drum kit was a very simple drum kit that you can see here. And I built this using some one-shot samples. The 808 was programmed on a separate drum rack for some reason. I've got no idea. But anyway, let's take a look at these elements over here. The next section where the orchestral elements come in. Yeah, so these cellos are different to the ones before. In fact, the choir progression is different. No, it's not. It's these cellos. And now, of course, we've got the the M1 organ coming in as a new element on this chorus. And the way it works is that the verses are with the half-tempo R&B vibe, choruses are the two-step, and then in between we've got these kind of rich orchestral elements. And it really does kind of keep the interest going throughout the song. And I also did a dedicated kind of outro. Let's have a listen to that. Yeah, for sure. The harp reversed is over here. I love the sound of this. So I bounced it out, I reversed it. So we're coming up to that outro that I was talking about. Timpani's back in there. So that's it. I'm sorry it was rushed, but it was a little opportunity to get something done here, and the single is out today, so I really wanted to get something together for that. So it's available everywhere. I'll put links below. It's available on streaming at the moment in this particular version, but in 2 weeks' time, the remixes will be available on streaming. The remixes are, however, available now exclusively at tracksource.com, so I will put all the links below. And thanks to everybody supporting the release.